Everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 527. Today we're going to take a look at Junk Art. Now, this is being brought over by Z-Man Games. Now this is a game in a particular genre. Let's take a look at the back of the box. And you can see these wooden blocks and things here. And you're going to be stacking these on top of each other and trying not to have the contraption that you build fall down. It's kind of like reverse Jenga, so to speak. There's been a few other games that I've played like this. One is Bowsack, which is a very old game, very hard to find. Another one is Riff Raft, and there's another one that I can't remember the name of. And usually you just kind of stack things up or put things on like this big rocking ship and stuff like that until it falls over, and then there's a loser and maybe multiple winners or a single winner. But this kind of reinvests back into that genre. It kind of mixes everything up. So not to spoil the review, but let's jump into kind of how the game works, which is many different ways, and then I will tell you what I think of it. Now, one thing to note here is you can maybe tell this is actually a wooden box here that's inside of this sort of cardboard insert there. So this is kind of a nice sturdy thing. You don't necessarily need that cardboard box part, but it's kind of nice art and stuff. Then you've got the rule book, and there's some other rule books and other languages under here. And then you have these different wooden pieces and everything. I just want to kind of show that it was a wooden box, and we've got some other components here. So let's set things up, and then we'll talk about how the game works. Okay, now here is all of the pieces that you get in the game, and the first thing to notice, of course, are these very nicely and brightly colored wooden pieces here. And you can see there's 4 colors of them. So each of the different colors has each of the same kind of pieces. So each of the colors has this sort of, plank with a hole in it. Now sometimes, depending on how you set the game up and which kind of rules you play with, each player can take over a certain colored pieces, but most of the time you'll mix these up, and then players will be pulling from the general supply. Now each player is going to get one of these wooden black blocks here, and these are your base. And you're always going to start stacking things on top of this base like so. Now there are 6 of these, so the game goes from 2 to 6 players. And there's a variety of ways basically that you're going to score the game. Now what you're trying to get are these tokens here. Now these white ones are worth 1 point, or they call them fans, and then the black ones are worth 5. And what you're doing is you're traveling to these different cities. So you've got Hometown, Amsterdam, Gujarat, Indianapolis, Monaco, and so on. And what these do is they set up different ways to evaluate the game. So it's going to give you different end conditions and also different ways that you're going to score points and all that. So it's kind of icon heavy. So I just usually open the rule book and then turn to the section about that particular city there. So like there's Paris. And you just read that. And you're going to deal out 3 of these to start the game. You're going to kind of see what's up and coming. And then kind of depending on the rules of the city that you're in, you're either going to be playing simultaneously. So you can see here is a simultaneous play city, or you might have turn order go one direction or the other direction, and you have this little turn order marker here to signify and remind you which direction it's going. And then sometimes you might have some special cards that go with some of the different cities. Now there is a stack here of cards, and there are cards for each of the different components in the game. So you've got here the card here matching this here, this blue piece there, and so on. Now the other thing to note about these cards is they have numbers, and this sometimes comes into play when you might actually be drafting. There's even like sort of a trick-taking variant or way to score, and so you'll play these, and then based on the cards that are played, then players will have to play certain of the pieces. And so you're trying to play, and this is general throughout all of the different variants, you're trying to play the easiest one that's not going to fall over. Now when you have a turn to take a piece, and you can set this base up either like upside like that or flat, and then you take a piece. So when you take a piece, you can take it and you can touch this piece all you want. And you have to place it in such a way that it's touching the base. It can never be touching the ground. And once you get another piece, then I can take this, and if I want to move a piece that I've already placed, then I have to move it with this piece, but I can no longer touch this piece. Now I can touch the base with my other hand there like that, and that was bad. But then I can put that on there like that. So a lot of times you're going to keep playing, and you're going to play until somebody has a fallen piece. So if a piece falls off, let's say that fell off like that did, then I would set that aside, and that would count as a fallen piece. So you might play until somebody has 5 fallen pieces, or you might get eliminated. So you might play and say, once you have 2 fallen pieces, and then you're eliminated. And that's actually a nice thing, because a lot of these other kind of games, once you kind of mess up and blow up whatever structure you're building, then you're out of the game. So this isn't always an instant in this case. And so a lot of times you're going to be, like I said, you could be playing tricks, you could be drafting the cards, you could be sort of like trying to negotiate a little bit and say, here, I'll give you these 2, and then you build this one, I'll build that one, kind of thing. So there's just a ton of different variants throughout all the cities. And there's even a variant where you all work on the same base. That's the Paris variant. And so players will have a hand of cards, and the card that you play, the next player has to actually add that to the structure. And then once you have 3 fallen pieces, in that case, then you're out, and people keep going, they keep building on the same structures. The other thing you might do is you might have to have the tallest structure when play ends. And so they give you this kind of tape measure here. And so sometimes it's hard to tell. So you can actually measure exactly there with this tape measure. Now there's even a variant here. Let's see if I can find it. This here is Nashville, and this actually will work with Flick 'em Up if you have that. Now I don't have Flick 'em Up, so I haven't tried it, but you can kind of set up these pieces and you get dealt these cactus cards too. That's what those are for. And you can set these different structures up across from each other, and then use the Flick 'em Up pieces to kind of shoot at each other, which is kind of interesting. But that's basically the game. You just flip over these cities and you play one of the different variants, and just kind of mix it up, and it's just going to mix up how the game is scored and how each round is going to end. Okay, so that is Junkrat, and right off the bat I just want to say it's an amazing production across the board. The pieces that you actually put together, they're nicely colored, very cool looking. Once you get like a nice cool structure on the table, it looks kind of artsy, I guess, so that's pretty cool. And I think they put a lot of thought into how the different kind of shapes work, so there is some sort of learning that you can do as you play the game and kind of go, oh well, this one isn't so bad, now that I see I can kind of slide this other thing inside of it and that kind of thing. But that actually is going to change a little bit based on the scenario that you're doing, which I think is really a plus for this game. So like with the other games like Riff Raff and Bossack, which are the 2 I remember playing, you kind of have some pieces that are like, okay, that one's just kind of automatically the worst piece. You don't want that because it's really rolly or something. Or you just kind of know certain situations where that piece is, that's the time to use that piece, that kind of thing. Whereas in this, you have the different scenarios and stuff, so it's going to kind of change up from game to game. The other thing that is cool is actually the theme. And I kind of mentioned this, they do kind of look artsy. And I think it really kind of has a cool theme where players are kind of traveling from town to town. They're sort of building these impromptu pieces in front of people. If you kind of think of like, folks doing ice sculptures or something at the fair and that kind of thing. So it's kind of like a traveling troupe. We're all trying to impress and get the most fans or the most points in the different cities. And the different cities kind of have different tastes or different, stuff that they like to see in their art. So that's kind of cool. It kind of fits the theme, actually. So I think it's a very, very nice production. I think the nice thing about it for me, as I think is kind of like the end-all be-all of those kinds of games where, if you played Riff Raff a whole bunch, you'd probably get bored of it because, it's kind of the same thing over and over. Whereas this, you can play it all kinds of different ways. And then, you can probably combine and make different rules yourself or play different lengths and kind of adjust the scoring how you like and stuff. So it's definitely a dexterity game. I've played with people that were like, whoa, I don't want to play this at all because they just are super nervous about, stacking stuff. So, obviously, that's obvious, though. You want to know that going in. But it can be tricky, and you do want to have sort of a patient hand to put the stuff out, just like any game like Jenga or anything. So I highly recommend this. Everything is very nicely laid out. Just a great overall production, and it's super fun. And it's just the thing about these dexterity games, which I don't review a lot of because I haven't owned any of them, and usually my group has them or I play them at a convention or something. And it's just a great time. It's just a nice sort of break in, at least in a kind of a game night type of format where using your brain so much, or having these big tactical wars or whatever you're doing. And this is just a nice shift and a nice change of pace, but it still has some very smart design elements that are going to keep you interested and still kind of engage that other side of your brain, while messing with your dexterity skills. So definitely take a look at this one. Thanks.